The Silent Washers. Deep beneath the Philippine Sea, Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the control room of the U.S. Nautilus, her eyes fixed on a display that shouldn't have been showing anything at all. The experimental submarine's quantum detection array was registering anomalies far beyond its designed range, impossibly far. "Run the analysis again, Dr. Wei," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. The Nautilus had been testing new stealth systems when they detected the first signatures. Now, 3 days later, they were tracking what appeared to be massive objects decelerating from near-light speed at the edge of the solar system. Dr. Sarah Wei, the vessel's lead quantum physicist, adjusted her thick-rimmed glasses and tapped through another series of calculations. "Confirmed, Captain. The signatures match our theoretical models for gravitational drives. We're looking at artificial objects, each roughly the size of Manhattan." Maya nodded slowly, her dark eyes never leaving the display. 20 years of naval service had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now every nerve was screaming that humanity had just run out of time to prepare. "How many?" "7 primary vessels, Captain. Plus smaller signatures we can't accurately count yet." The Nautilus hung motionless in the Hadal Zone, over 6 miles beneath the surface. At this depth, the pressure outside the hull could crush an unprotected human into a space smaller than a sugar cube. But inside the vessel's advanced shell, Maya felt only a slight popping in her ears as she moved closer to the quantum display. "Send the deepwater protocol signal," she ordered, turning to her communications officer. "All channels, all frequencies. Let's see who else is listening." Within minutes, responses began flooding in, first from other experimental vessels like the Nautilus, then from the network of deep-sea monitoring stations that dotted the ocean floor. The aliens thought they were approaching an unsuspecting planet. Instead, they were being tracked by humanity's most sophisticated detection network, one hidden safely beneath Earth's oceans. In the Pacific Fleet Command Center, Admiral James Chen reviewed the incoming data with growing satisfaction. The aliens had chosen to approach from above the solar system's orbital plane, probably thinking it gave them a tactical advantage. Instead, they'd positioned themselves perfectly for observation by Earth's deep-sea quantum array. "They're using active scanning," reported Captain Rodriguez's voice over the quantum-encrypted channel. "High energy beams, probably looking for orbital defenses or surface installations." Chen smiled grimly, "and finding exactly what we wanted them to find. Primitive satellites, basic defense systems, nothing that would worry a space-faring civilization." He turned to Dr. Catherine Morrison, the architect of humanity's undersea defense network. "How long until they detect the oceanic activity?" The scientist checked her calculations. "They won't. Their energy-based scanning methods can't penetrate more than a few meters into the ocean. We're seeing them because we're using quantum entanglement detection, technology they clearly haven't mastered yet. To them, Earth's oceans are just an annoying visual obstacle." That was exactly what humanity had been counting on. For the past 50 years, as evidence of alien life had mounted, Earth's nations had made a collective decision. Rather than building obvious space-based defenses that any advanced civilization could detect and counter, they had turned to the oceans. The result was a defense network unlike anything in the galaxy, because no other known civilization had evolved on a water world. In the Nautilus's control room, Maya watched as the alien vessels entered high orbit. Their formation was perfect, their technology clearly advanced. But they had made a crucial mistake. They assumed humanity's technology would mirror their own, focused on space, energy weapons, and visible defenses. They hadn't considered that humans had spent centuries mastering warfare in an environment that was, in many ways, more hostile than space. The pressure at the Nautilus's current depth was greater than on most known planets. The complete darkness had led to the development of sensing technologies that didn't rely on electromagnetic radiation. The need for stealth had driven innovations in quantum engineering that the aliens clearly hadn't contemplated. "Signal from Fleet Command," her communications officer reported. "All vessels maintain position and continue passive tracking. Surface forces are initiating first contact protocols. Maya nodded, knowing similar scenes were playing out in submarines and underwater bases across Earth's oceans. The aliens would soon make their presence known, probably expecting to shock and awe a primitive civilization. They would be greeted by smiling diplomats, modest displays of military power, and carefully crafted appearances of technological inferiority. Meanwhile, beneath the waves, humanity's real power waited. Quantum-linked communication networks that couldn't be detected or jammed. Pressure-forged materials stronger than any space-grade alloy. Weapons that used the ocean itself as ammunition, capable of launching devastating attacks from the last direction any spacefaring race would expect. New contact, Dr. Wei announced suddenly. Small vessel, probably a shuttle, descending through the atmosphere. Trajectory suggests they're aiming for the UN headquarters in New York. Right on schedule, Maya murmured. Above them, humanity would play its role. The young civilization taking its first steps into a larger galaxy. But here in the depths, in humanity's true domain, they would watch and wait. The aliens would learn soon enough that they hadn't discovered Earth. Earth had discovered them. Dr. Wei's console chimed softly. Captain, quantum analysis of their hull materials is complete. They're using standard metallic alloys, hardened against radiation and micro-impacts. Nothing designed to withstand extreme pressure. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had learned long ago that any material that could survive the crushing depths of Earth's oceans could handle anything space could throw at it. The reverse, apparently, wasn't true. Log the analysis, she ordered, and maintain position. I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot about our new friends before they learn anything real about us. The Nautilus hung silently in the darkness, its quantum sensors recording every detail of humanity's first contact with alien life. Above, diplomats would talk of peace and cooperation. But here in the depths, Earth's true guardians watched and waited, ready to demonstrate that humanity's greatest strengths lay not in the stars they reached for, but in the oceans that had forged them. The first act of humanity's debut on the galactic stage was about to begin, and like the deepest ocean currents, their true power remained hidden, patient, and unstoppable. Deep Blue Deception. High Ambassador Vorthak of the Galactic Concordat stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of the UN's New York headquarters, his iridescent scales reflecting the afternoon sunlight. 3 days of diplomatic meetings had left him increasingly uneasy, though he couldn't quite explain why. "Your oceans," he said suddenly, turning to face UN Secretary-General Isabella Martinez. "They cover so much of your world. How do you manage to build a civilization with so little usable space?" Martinez smiled diplomatically, choosing her words carefully. "We adapt, Ambassador. Humans are quite good at that." Vorthak's anterior sensors detected something in her tone. Pride, perhaps. But surely that made no sense. The Concordat's scans had shown only primitive underwater installations, some fishing operations, basic research stations, nothing that could explain such confidence. "Perhaps," he suggested smoothly, "we could arrange a demonstration of Concordat technology. Our matter conversion systems could reclaim significant portions of your oceans, create new landmasses for your growing population." The horrified expression that flickered across Martinez's face was gone so quickly that Vorthak almost missed it. "That's a generous offer, Ambassador, but we found our oceans to be quite valuable as they are." Before Vorthak could respond, an aide rushed into the room, whispering urgently to Martinez. The Secretary-General's expression hardened. "Ambassador, I'm afraid we'll need to cut this meeting short. We've detected unusual activity from the Kraken Alliance vessels in your fleet." Vorthak's scales rippled with concern. The Kraken Alliance was a militant faction within the Concordat, barely tolerated for their advanced military technology. "What kind of activity?" "They're moving into attack position above our major cities." The ambassador's secondary heart nearly stopped. "Impossible. They wouldn't dare. A deafening alarm cut him off as the building's emergency systems activated. In the Philippine Sea, Captain Maya Rodriguez watched the situation unfold on the Nautilus's quantum displays. The Kraken ships had broken formation, positioning themselves over Earth's largest population centers. Their energy signatures indicated weapon systems powering up. "They're launching fighters," Dr. Wei reported calmly. "Atmospheric entry calculated in 3 minutes." Maya allowed herself a grim smile. "Send the signal. Operation Undertow is now active." Across Earth's oceans, hundreds of structures that had appeared to be simple research stations or oil platforms began to transform. Massive panels slid open on the ocean floor, revealing sophisticated launch systems. In the Mariana Trench, an entire section of seafloor split apart, unveiling a city-sized military installation that had been hidden beneath layers of metamaterial camouflage. In New York, Vorthak stared in disbelief at his sensor readouts. "This is impossible. Where did these energy signatures come from?" Martinez's diplomatic smile had been replaced by something fiercer. "Ambassador, you're about to learn why we never needed your help with our oceans." The first wave of Kraken fighters screamed into Earth's atmosphere, weapons charge. They were met not by the primitive air forces they expected, but by something entirely different. Massive columns of seawater erupted from the oceans, controlled by electromagnetic fields humans had developed through decades of underwater research. The fighters, designed for space combat, found their energy shields useless against the simple kinetic force of precisely aimed seawater moving at supersonic speeds. "Multiple Kraken vessels hit," reported Dr. Wei aboard the Nautilus. "Their hulls aren't designed to handle sudden pressure changes. They're breaking apart." Maya nodded, watching as the ocean itself became humanity's weapon. "Launch the Hydro-class defenders." From hidden underwater bases, sleek vessels emerged. They looked nothing like traditional aircraft, because they weren't designed by humans looking up at the stars. They were designed by humans who had mastered the crushing pressures and complex fluid dynamics of Earth's oceans. The vessels moved in ways that defied conventional aerodynamics, manipulating water and air with equal ease. In the UN building, Vorthak watched in horror as the Kraken fleet's fighters were systematically destroyed by weapons they couldn't even detect. "What are those devices?" "Our sensors can't." "Quantum cavitation generators," Martins explained, her tone almost gentle. "They create localized areas of extreme pressure differential. Very effective against spacecraft, as you can see. We developed them for deep-sea mining originally." The Nautilus surfaced for the first time in months, its advanced hull gleaming as seawater cascaded off its surfaces. Around it, dozens of similar vessels emerged, each representing a different aspect of humanity's true military capability. Some manipulated water pressure to create invisible barriers stronger than any energy shield. Others used principles learned from deep-sea creatures to generate electromagnetic pulses that disrupted alien technology. "Status report," Maya commanded, standing on her vessel's outer deck as she watched Kraken ships falling from the sky. "All major population centers secured," her XO reported. "Underwater defense grid at full power. The Kraken fleet is in full retreat, but they've lost 60% of their attack force." In New York, Vorthak stared at the humans with new understanding and not a little fear. They hadn't built up into space because they hadn't needed to. They had built down, turning their planet's most challenging environment into their greatest defense. "Those research stations," he said slowly, "they weren't just studying the ocean, were they?" Martinez shook her head. "Ambassador, humanity learned long ago that the best place to hide is somewhere your enemies don't think to look. Your people see our oceans as obstacles. We see them as our greatest allies." As if to emphasize her point, another Kraken vessel crashed into the Atlantic, its hull crushed by pressures it was never designed to withstand. The remaining alien ships fled into high orbit, their sensors finally detecting the vast network of underwater installations that had been there all along, hidden not by advanced technology, but by their own assumptions about where a civilization would build its defenses. In the aftermath, As cleanup vessels used controlled water streams to gather debris from the short-lived battle, Maya received new orders from Fleet Command. The Nautilus would remain surface temporarily, a visible reminder to their alien visitors that humanity's true strength lay not in what they could see, but in what they couldn't. "Send word to all stations," she ordered. "Maintain alert status, but stand down from active combat operations." She paused, looking at the stunned alien diplomats being evacuated from coastal cities. "I think our visitors have learned enough for one day." The ocean's surface settled into its usual rhythms, hiding once again the vast network of power that lurked beneath. Humanity had revealed one layer of its defenses today, but like the ocean itself, there were depths still waiting to be discovered. Pressure points. Admiral James Chen stood in the heart of the Pacific Defense Grid's command center, carved deep into the bedrock beneath the Challenger Deep. Holographic displays showed the Kraken Alliance fleet regrouping at the edge of the solar system, their numbers now tripled after calling in reinforcements. "They're adapting faster than expected," Dr. Catherine Morrison observed, studying the quantum sensor readings. "The new vessels show significant hull modifications. They're trying to replicate our pressure-resistant designs." Chen nodded grimly. "But they're working from incomplete data. They still think this is about simple pressure resistance." He turned to the massive central display, where red dots representing enemy ships clustered like angry wasps. "They haven't figured out what we really learned from the deep." In high orbit, Kraken War Commander Zextal watched recordings of the previous battle for the 100th time. The humans' liquid-based weapons had decimated his first attack wave, but now he understood their tricks, or thought he did. "All vessels show successful pressure shielding tests," his chief engineer reported. "Our new hulls can withstand forces equivalent to their deepest ocean trenches." Zextal's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Begin the attack. This time, we'll show these humans what real space warfare looks like." Aboard the Nautilus, now patrolling the mid-Atlantic ridge, Captain Maya Rodriguez received the first warnings. "Multiple fold space signatures detected," Dr. Wei announced. "They're attacking from all vectors simultaneously." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "They still don't understand. Signal the Leviathan network. It's time to show them why we named our defense grid after ancient sea monsters." Across Earth's oceans, structures that had remained hidden even during the first battle began to activate. In the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, massive tentacle-like arrays of quantum-linked sensors unfurled from the seafloor. Each was based on the nervous system of giant squid, creating a detection and response network that operated faster than light itself. "Leviathan network active," Dr. Morrison reported in the Pacific Command Center. "Initiating biomimetic defense protocols." The Kraken ships dove into Earth's atmosphere, their new pressure shields holding strong against the humans' water-based weapons, but they'd prepared for the wrong attack. "Deploy the hydrozoan swarms," Chen ordered. From underwater launch sites, millions of tiny drones emerged. Each was based on the design of sea jellies, using quantum fields to manipulate water molecules themselves. As they rose through the atmosphere, they began to change the very composition of the air around the Kraken ships. "What's happening?" Zextal demanded as his ship's sensors began to fail. "Why can't we get clear readings?" "The atmosphere," his science officer struggled to explain. "It's becoming more like liquid, but that's impossible." In the Nautilus's control room, Maya watched the aliens' confusion with professional satisfaction. "Humanity didn't just learn to resist water pressure," she murmured. "We learned to control it." Launched the cephalopod units. New vessels rose from the depths, but these weren't the defensive craft from the first battle. These ships seemed to flow through the air like living ink, their hulls constantly shifting and reforming. Based on octopus camouflage techniques and enhanced with quantum engineering, they were virtually invisible until the moment they struck. Multiple Kraken vessels experiencing catastrophic hull failures, Dr. Wei reported. Their pressure shields are holding, but they didn't account for localized quantum flux. The alien ships had indeed learned to withstand extreme pressure, but they hadn't learned to adapt to pressure differentials that changed faster than nerve impulses. The cephalopod units created quantum bubbles where pressure existed in multiple states simultaneously, tearing apart even the strongest hulls. In the Pacific Command Center, Chen watched as the Kraken fleet's formation began to break. "They thought we'd just throw more water at them," he noted to Dr. Morrison. "They never considered that we'd learn to manipulate the fundamental forces that make water behave the way it does." The scientist nodded. 3 centuries of deep-sea research gave us insights they never had. They're still thinking in terms of resistance. We learned to work with the pressure, not against it. Aboard his flagship, Zextal watched in horror as another vessel imploded, crushed by forces his sensors couldn't even properly detect. "How are they doing this? Our shields are at maximum." "Sir," his science officer's voice shook, "I don't think they're using the water anymore. They're using everything. The pressure, the quantum states, the very fabric of space-time. These humans, they've mastered fluid dynamics on a quantum level." Maya's voice crackled across all frequencies, addressing the alien fleet. "Your shields are impressive, War Commander, but they're designed to resist force from one direction at a time. We learned long ago that the real challenge isn't handling pressure. It's handling pressure that comes from everywhere at once." As if to emphasize her point, a cephalopod unit phased through a Kraken destroyer's shields, as if they didn't exist, its quantum-shifted hull allowing it to ignore conventional barriers. The destroyer vanished in a sphere of imploded matter as pressures from 1,000 different quantum states hit it simultaneously. 60% of enemy fleet neutralized, Dr. Wei reported. The remainder are attempting to retreat, but the Leviathan network is interfering with their fold space calculations. In the Pacific Command Center, Chen nodded in satisfaction. "Let them retreat. But first, show them what else we learned from the deep." At his command, the Leviathan network pulsed. Like the bioluminescent signals of deep-sea creatures, quantum information raced through the alien fleet's computers, destroying their navigation systems with patterns based on the electric signals of electric eels, enhanced to operate on a quantum scale. "Clear their path," Chen ordered finally. "Let them run." The remaining Kraken ships fled in disarray, their once proud fleet reduced to panic-stricken retreat. They had come expecting to find a primitive civilization hiding behind simple water pressure tricks. Instead, they had found a species that had turned their planet's most hostile environment into a laboratory for quantum warfare. As the Nautilus submerged again, Maya looked at the darkening ocean above. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "And next time, they'll bring something new." "Let them come," Dr. Wei replied, her hands dancing across the quantum controls. "The oceans still have many secrets to teach us." In the depths below, the Leviathan network pulsed quietly, its tentacles of quantum-linked sensors spreading further through Earth's oceans. Humanity hadn't just adapted to the deep, they had learned to think like it. And the Kraken Alliance was about to learn that there were far more terrifying things in Earth's oceans than simple water pressure. Tides of war. Deep in the Mariana Trench Command Center, Admiral Chen studied the quantum feeds with growing concern. The Kraken Alliance wasn't just sending ships this time. They were deploying massive space-based construction platforms. "They're building something in orbit," Dr. Morrison reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Energy signatures suggest some kind of massive weapon platform. But there's something else." She frowned at the readings. "They're harvesting asteroids, converting them into some kind of specialized projectiles. They think they've figured us out," Chen said quietly. "They believe that if they can't beat our pressure weapons, they'll simply destroy our oceans altogether." He turned to face the assembled command staff. "It's time to activate the Charybdis Protocol." Aboard the Nautilus, now stationed near the mid-Atlantic thermal vent array, Captain Maya Rodriguez received the alert. "Charybdis Protocol authorized," she announced to her crew. "Dr. Wei, begin thermal excitation sequence." The quantum physicist nodded grimly. Initiating deep thermal tap. All thermal vent arrays worldwide responding. For decades, humanity had maintained what appeared to be simple thermal energy stations near underwater volcanic vents. The aliens had dismissed them as primitive power generation systems. They were about to learn their true purpose. In high orbit, War Commander Zextal watched his fleet's new weapon platforms take shape. The humans hide in their oceans, he snarled. Then we will boil their oceans dry. Begin the bombardment. Massive railguns powered up, launching specially engineered asteroids at Earth's oceans. Each projectile was designed to penetrate deep into the water before detonating with enough force to vaporize cubic miles of seawater. The first asteroid struck the Pacific Ocean. But instead of the expected explosions, something very different happened. Energy signature deviation. Zextal's science officer shouted. The thermal readings. This is impossible. In the waters below, humanity revealed another secret. The thermal vent arrays weren't just power stations. They were the control nodes for a planet-wide thermal management system. As the asteroids struck, their kinetic energy was instantly captured and redirected through a network of quantum-linked thermal conduits. Thermal capture at 98% efficiency, Dr. Wei reported aboard the Nautilus, redirecting energy to the Charybdis nodes. Maya watched her displays as the ocean itself seemed to come alive. The thermal energy from the asteroid impacts was being channeled through the deep-sea vent network, converted into something the aliens had never seen before. They thought our mastery of pressure was impressive, she said softly. Wait until they see what we learned about heat. In the Mariana Command Center, Chen gave the order. Activate the Charybdis vortex. Across Earth's oceans, the thermal energy captured from the alien bombardment was released in a carefully controlled pattern. Massive whirlpools formed, but these weren't natural formations. They were quantum-engineered thermal vortices, each one a perfectly tuned weapon. Multiple thermal anomalies detected. Zextal's officers shouted in panic. They're pulling our ships down. The Charybdis vortices reached up from the oceans, their quantum-enhanced spiral arms extending far into the atmosphere. Ships caught in their grasp found their energy shields useless against forces that operated on both macro and quantum scales simultaneously. Impossible, Zextal whispered as he watched a destroyer torn apart. They're using our own bombardment energy against us. Not just the energy. Maya's voice came across all channels. We learned long ago that heat and pressure are just different aspects of the same force. Your asteroids gave us exactly what we needed to demonstrate. The vortices continued to rise, each one powered by the combined thermal energy of multiple asteroid impacts. But Earth's defenders weren't finished. At Maya's command, the Nautilus and its sister ships activated their most sophisticated systems yet. Deploy the hydrothermal lance arrays, she ordered. The thermal vortices suddenly transformed, their spiraling energy patterns shifting into focused beams. Based on studying the way deepest-dwelling ocean creatures survive near superheated thermal vents, humanity had learned to control and direct thermal energy with unprecedented precision. Sir, Zextal's tactical officer screamed. The temperatures inside those beams, they're approaching solar core levels. One by one, the massive alien weapon platforms began to melt, their advanced materials no match for weapons based on the physics of Earth's most extreme environments. The carefully engineered asteroid launchers turned to slag, their ammunition detonating harmlessly in space. In the Mariana Command Center, Dr. Morrison monitored the quantum feeds. The Kraken fleet is in full retreat, she reported. But their fold space signatures suggest they're regrouping for another attack. Chen nodded. They still don't understand. Every attack teaches us more, gives us more energy to work with. He turned to face the massive holographic display, showing Earth's thermal defense network. We learned our most important lessons from the ocean itself. There is no such thing as useless energy. Everything can be captured, redirected, transformed. Aboard the Nautilus, Maya watched the enemy fleet retreat. The thermal vortices were subsiding, their energy carefully recaptured and stored in the deep-sea network. Earth's oceans looked calm again, hiding their true nature as humanity's greatest weapon and shield. "They'll be back," Dr. Wei said quietly. "Their scans will have detected at least some of our thermal manipulation technology." Maya smiled. "Good. Let them prepare for thermal weapons. Let them build better heat shields." She turned to face her crew. "Because they still haven't figured out our greatest secret. We never show all our cards at once. The oceans taught us that too." Deep beneath the surface, the thermal vent arrays continued their quiet work, gathering and channeling the planet's natural energy. And in hidden laboratories and command centers, humanity prepared their next innovation, waiting to reveal what else they had learned from Earth's most powerful and mysterious environment. The true nature of humanity's ocean-borne power was still waiting to be revealed, and the Kraken Alliance was about to learn why Earth's defenders named their weapons after ancient sea gods and monsters. The tide of war was about to turn again, in ways no space-faring race could have predicted. Rising tide. The Kraken Alliance's final assault force emerged from Fold space with enough firepower to devastate a dozen worlds. Over 3,000 ships, including their legendary planet killer vessels, filled Earth's orbital space. War Commander Zextal stood on his command deck, mandibles clicking in anticipation. "No more games," he announced to his fleet. "No more clever tricks with water and heat. We'll destroy their entire planet if we must." In the Mariana Command Center, Admiral Chen watched the massive fleet's arrival with surprising calm. "They still think they're fighting a planetary civilization," he remarked to Dr. Morrison. "Time to show them what we really are." Initiating final protocol, Morrison announced, her hand steady on the quantum controls. All ocean grid facilities responding. Around the planet, what appeared to be the ocean floor itself began to move. Massive sections of seabed shifted, revealing the true scale of humanity's preparations. The ocean floor had been a carefully maintained illusion, hiding humanity's greatest achievement. Aboard the Nautilus, Maya received the activation codes. "Begin ocean grid ascension," she ordered. "Full neural quantum link engage." Dr. Wei's eyes widened as she monitored the readings. All subsea facilities reporting ready. The grid is alive. In orbit, Zextal's tactical officer suddenly screamed, "Sir, energy readings. There, the whole planet is." The oceans of Earth began to glow with an inner light as billions of quantum-linked particles, developed from studying bioluminescent deep-sea creatures, activated simultaneously. But this was more than just a light show. 3 centuries ago, Maya's voice echoed across all frequencies. Humanity realized something profound. We weren't just living on a water world. We were living on a quantum computer waiting to be activated. The glow intensified as the truth was finally revealed. Earth's oceans weren't just hiding humanity's defenses. They were humanity's greatest technology. Every water molecule had been gradually transformed over decades into a quantum computational medium. The entire planetary ocean was now a single vast quantum computer. "Impossible," Zextal whispered as his sensors tried to process what they were seeing. "The computational power, it's greater than all known civilizations combined." "Water has memory," Maya continued, her voice now backed by the computational power of Earth's oceans. "Every molecule can be quantum entangled. Every wave can carry information. We didn't just learn to fight in the oceans, we learned to think with them." The ocean grid fully activated. Quantum computations propagated through every drop of water on Earth. The collective intelligence of humanity merged with the vast computational power of their transformed oceans. From the seafloor rose structures that defied conventional physics. They weren't ships or weapons in any traditional sense. They were manifestations of humanity's ultimate technology, matter controlled at the quantum level by the ocean itself. All units linked, Dr. Morrison reported in the Mariana Command Center. Ocean grid consciousness stable. Initiating planetary defense. The Kraken fleet opened fire with everything they had. Planet killer weapons, antimatter torpedoes, quantum disruptors. The combined firepower of 1,000 worlds streaked toward Earth. They never reached their target. The ocean itself reached up, not as water or energy, but as quantum-controlled space-time. Every weapon fired at Earth was caught in fields of altered reality, their energy absorbed into the vast computational matrix of the ocean grid. You thought we were primitive because we lived on a water world. Maya's voice resonated through space itself now, carried by quantum fields rather than electromagnetic waves. You never understood. Water was our greatest teacher. It showed us how to flow, how to adapt, how to turn any force used against us into more computational power. The ocean grid's manifestations surrounded the Kraken fleet. They weren't attacking. They were simply altering the fundamental laws of physics in localized areas. Ships found themselves in spaces where their weapons couldn't function, where their drives couldn't generate power, where their very atoms struggled to maintain coherence. In the Mariana Command Center, Shen watched as the mighty Kraken fleet was systematically neutralized without a single shot being fired. "Send the final message," he ordered. Maya's voice, backed by the computational power of Earth's oceans, delivered humanity's terms. "Your weapons are useless. Your ships are contained. But we're not going to destroy you. Instead, we're going to show you what else we learned from the oceans, how to embrace change, how to evolve, how to become more than you are." The ocean grid pulsed once, and every ship in the Kraken fleet was suddenly downloaded with a fraction of humanity's accumulated knowledge. Not weapons technology or military secrets, but understanding. The fundamental insights that had led humanity to transform their greatest challenge into their greatest strength. "We offer you partnership," Maya continued. "Not submission, not alliance, but true collaboration. The oceans taught us that individual drops of water become powerful when they work together. The same is true of civilizations." Zextal stood on his command deck, his mighty fleet helpless, his weapons useless. And yet, he felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. The humans could have destroyed them all. Instead, they were offering something far more valuable: understanding. "The galaxy thinks of us as a young race," Maya concluded, "hidden away on our water world. But the oceans taught us patience. We waited, we learned, we evolved. And now we're ready to share what we've learned. The only question is, are you ready to learn?" In the depths of Earth's oceans, the quantum network hummed with power and possibility. Humanity had transformed their greatest obstacle into their greatest achievement. They had learned to think like the ocean. Fluid, adaptable, incredibly powerful, yet capable of great gentleness. The tide of war had turned into something else entirely, the beginning of a new age of exploration and understanding. And as Maya looked out from the Nautilus at the glowing waters that represented humanity's true power, she knew that this was just the beginning. The ocean still had many secrets to teach, and humanity was ready to learn them all.